Shalom, Zion. Shalom, shalom. To the whole house of YAHUAH'S, to all 12 tribes, to the younger brother, Ephraim, who is coming out from amongst the nations, to the elder brother, YAHUAH, who is also coming out from amongst the nations, to the stranger, the Ger, the Goyim, Gentile, who was formerly a Ger, formerly a Goyim, formerly a Gentile, formerly considered a swine and a dog, but having now been engrafted into the Bayif, the house of YAHUAH, through the Messiah, through Yahushua HaMashiach, through the branch, through Ha-Natsah, whereby becoming branches, fellow citizens, and fellow partakers of the covenants and promise and inheritance that was only given to YAHUAH and to YAHUAH alone. Welcome, welcome, former stranger, former Ger, former Goyim, former Gentile, former dog, and former swine. Welcome to the Bayif, the house of YAHUAH. Shalom, shalom. To the whole Bayif, the whole house, all 12 tribes, wherever your feet touch the soil. Shalom, shalom to you, the house of YAHUAH on this Yom. Shalom, shalom. Zion, be careful who you give ear to. Be careful who you give ear to. Stop making agreements with devils. Beware of flattering lips. Beware of flattering lips. Again, Zion, be careful in this age of technology, in this age of social media, and this age of Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, where we can grow fond of other people without even knowing them, where we can divulge our innermost thoughts to perfect strangers that we don't know. But because of social media and Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, it has caused us to break down our guards, to bring down our guards, and to get more comfortable with people than perhaps we should, especially with a perfect stranger. So I submit to you again, Zion, be careful who you give ear to. Stop making agreements with devils. Beware of flattering tongues. Beware of flattering tongues. What do I mean? What does YAHUAH have to say? What does he mean? Well, let's look at the word flattery. Let's look at this word for a second. The definition of flattery is excessive and insincere. The operative word is insincere praise. Especially, listen, that given to further one's own interest. Especially that given to further one's own interest. In other words, beware of someone flattering you excessively when behind that flattery, you should be aware or should be cognizant of the fact that perhaps there is a reason that they are showering you with flattery. That they are showering you with flattery. Many of you come out from Babylon, have come out from amongst the world, both Aish and Aisha, both male and female, and it is not strange to you to understand when many of you have gone out on dates, and a man has, speaking to my Aishas here, a man has showered you with kind words and showered you with flattery and given you candy and giving you flowers and taking you out to dinner, but he has usually an ulterior motive, and usually the ulterior motive is to get you under the sheets. It's to get you under the sheets. Many of you may have already have fallen victim to these flattering words, And social media is no different. Social media is no different. Many are using flattering words. Many are using seductive words and seductive reasonings with ulterior motives. Many are doing this, and I have sent by here today. I have been sent by here today to warn you to beware of flattering lips. To beware of flattering lips. In the book of my chief Yahu, in the 15th chapter, reading at verse 8 through 9, it reads here, "This people draw near to me with their mouth and respect me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. But in vain do they worship me, teaching as teachings the commands of men." Beware of flattering lips. Beware of flattering lips. In Proverbs, the 29th chapter, the 5th verse, we read, "A man who flatters his neighbor is spreading a net for his steps." A man who flatters his neighbor is spreading a net for his steps. Indeed, beware of flattering lips. Beware of flattering lips. Along these lines, we pick up this thought in the book of Bereshith, Genesis, the 3rd chapter, and we're going to read verse 1 through 6. Here we read, "And the Nachash," in the English translation, this may say serpent. In the Hebrew, it is Nachash. "And the Nachash was more crafty than all the lives of the field which Yahuwah Elohim had made. And he said to the woman, Is it true that Elohim has said, Do not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said to the Nachash, We are to eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim has said, Do not eat of it, nor touch it, lest you die. And the Nachash said to the woman, You shall certainly not die, for Elohim knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes shall be open, and you shall be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. And the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desirable to make one wise. And she took of its fruit and ate. And she also gave to her husband, to her Aish, and with her, and he ate. And he ate. Again, Zion, be careful who you give ear to. Stop making agreements with devils. Beware of flattering lips. Looking a little closer at this text, looking indeed at the word Nachash in the Hebrew, it is Strong's number, Hebrew 5175. Nachash, and it indeed means serpent. It means serpent. But the root of this word, the root of the word Nachash is still Nachash, but it has a different meaning altogether. It has a deeper context, should I say, altogether. As we look at Strong's Hebrew 5172, its meaning is indeed a snake, but it is derived from its hiss. Its hiss. And so 5175 gets its meaning from 5172, and 5175 indeed means snake or serpent. Indeed, Nachash means serpent or snake, but it gets that name from 5172, which comes from its hiss. It's called a snake because of its hiss. So 5172 means hiss. It means hiss. But here's what I also need you to understand. The Strong's definition of Nachash 5172, it reads, a primitive root properly to hiss, that is, whisper a magic spell, generally to prognosticate, certainly divine, enchanter, enchantment, learned by experience, indeed, diligently observe. Moreover, Brown Driver Briggs definition says this: to practice divination, divine, observe signs, learn by experience, diligently observe, practice fortune teller, practice fortune telling, take as an omen. Take as an omen. So what Yah needs you to understand here is that the Nachash was practicing divination and magic here as it whispered into the ear of Kua. As he whispered into the ear of Kua. Indeed, those who practice witchcraft, those who practice divination, they first need your ear, Zion. They first need your ear. And once they have your ear, and usually they gain access to your ear through flattering lips. And once they gain access to your ear, then they can begin to whisper incantations and spells into your ear. And then the ultimate goal is to gain your agreement. To gain your agreement with that which is being incanted to you. Because once they gain your agreement, once there is a covenant made, once they gain your agreement, then they have the legal right. They have the legal right to incant over you. They have the legal right to inflict your life because you freely gave them your ear. You freely allowed them to hiss, to speak incantations into your ear. And then you freely made an agreement with them. You agreed. And more than likely, you, by agreeing, you gave over to what they were saying, or what he or she were saying by your actions. By your actions. So as we read Barashith, or Genesis, the 3rd chapter, verse 1 through 6 again closely. Let's read it again very closely. And the Nachash was more crafty than all the lives of the field which Yahuwah Elohim had made. He was crafty. And he said to the woman, and we've already looked at the Hebraic abri meaning behind Nachash, and it means to hiss or divine or speak magic spells, to hiss. Here, now the woman has given him her ear. Is it true that Elohim has said, and this is the Nachash, do not eat of every tree of the garden? She gave him his ear. She gave him her ear. And she answered him. And the woman said to the Nachash, we are to eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim has said, do not eat of it, nor touch it, lest you die. Here comes the incantation. And the Nachash said to the woman, you shall certainly not die, hissing, speaking contrary to the will and the word of Yah, incantation. For Elohim knows, here is the flattering lips. Here are the flattering lips. Her first mistake was giving ear to him, was giving ear to the incantation. Now comes the flattering lips. Again, beware. Beware of flattering lips. There's always an ulterior motive. There's usually an ulterior motive to flattering lips. Even if one is a friend, if a friend comes to you flattering you, there's usually a motive behind he or she offering flattering words. Indeed, beware of flattering lips. You shall certainly not die, for Elohim knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. Here, the woman, she is giving ear to him. He has spoken incantations and spells, the hiss, the divination. He has flattered her by saying, no, you won't die. Because he knows that the day you partake of this fruit, you're going to be like Elohim. You're going to be like Elohim. So he entered, and she gave him power over her. She gave him power over her, one, by allowing him into her ear, and two, entering into a covenant with him or in agreement with him, entering into an agreement with him in that she agreed that she would be like Elohim. Why did she agree? Because he flattered her. He flattered her. And this is what happened. And the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desirable to make one hakam or wise. And she took of its fruit and ate. And she also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. Flattery, incantation, giving ear to witches, giving ear to devils, giving ear to flattering lips. Beware, beware, Zion, of flattering lips. Beware of flattering lips. And here is why you need to be leery of flattering lips, not even giving ear to them. The minute someone begins to flatter you, the warning signs need to go up. And you need to be very careful and cognizant of what is going on. Because the next stage is that they're going to need you to make an agreement with them. There needs to be a covenant. Understand this, there is no divination and sorcery against Jacob. They need you to make an agreement with them, akin to when Balaam tried to curse YAHUAH'S. And it was spoken through him that there is no divination and sorcery against Jacob. Many of you may be familiar with this story with Balaam and the donkey in Moab, hiring him to come and curse YAHUAH'S in the wilderness. But instead of cursing YAHUAH'S, he offered barakah, because he uttered the words, how can I curse what YAHUAH has, barak, and that there is no sorcery and divination against Jacob. But what he did was he taught Moab how to cause them to curse themselves, how to cause them to curse themselves. In the apocryphal books, we read in the book of Jasher that what they did then was that they devised a plan where they took the best looking women, YAHUAH'S, from amongst them, only the best looking ones, whether they were married or single, and they placed them outside of the tents. They placed them at the doorway of the tent. And whenever a son of Jacob came by and he looked, his eyes met this beautiful woman, they allured him. They allured him into the tent where they fed him drink. He had drink, and they invited him down to their slaughterings, where they were slaughtering to their abominable mighty one. Then they partook of the offerings, and they laid with these abominable women. Thus, Balaam taught Moab to do this, and thus Israel, YAHUAH, then cursed themselves. They cursed themselves because there is no sorcery or divination against Jacob. We have to curse ourselves, or we have to enter into agreement with them. We have to enter into agreement with them. Indeed, in the wilderness, it is read in the script that here they what? They joined themselves to Baal Peor. They joined themselves to Baal Peor. They joined themselves in agreement with him. They made a covenant with Baal Peor because they listened to flattering lips. You see, these women were not just sitting in front of the tent, just sitting there beautiful, but they spoke alluring words to them. They spoke alluring words to them, flattering words to them, and caused them to drop their guards, whereby giving them their ear, whereby giving ear to the flattering words, whereby ultimately making agreement with them, making covenant with them, and being destroyed. We read in Numbers, the 30th chapter, or by Midbar, the 30th chapter, it reads, beginning at verse 1, and Moshe spoke to the heads of the tribes concerning the children of YAHUAH'S, saying, this is the word which YAHUAH has commanded. When a man vows a vow to YAHUAH, or swears an oath to bind himself by some agreement, he does not break his word. I need you to understand, when you make a vow, when you make an oath, when you make an agreement, whether it's with YAHUAH or with a devil, it is binding. It is binding. Oh, beware, Sion, of flattering lips. He does according to all that comes out of his mouth. Or if a woman vows a vow to YAHUAH and binds herself by some agreement while in her father's house in her youth, and her father hears her vow and the agreement by which she has bound herself, and her father has kept silent towards her, then all her vows shall stand, and every agreement with which she has bound herself stands. They need you to make an agreement. And usually, the beginning of making that agreement, Zion, is through flattering lips. It's through flattering lips. But if her father forbids her on the day that she hears, then none of her vows nor her agreements by which she has bound herself stand. And YAHUAH pardons her because her father has forbidden her. But if she at all belongs to a husband while bound by her vows or by a rash utterance from her lips by which she bound herself, and her husband hears it, and she has kept silent towards her, and he has kept silent towards her on the day that he hears, then her vows shall stand, and her agreements by which she bound herself do stand. They need you to make an agreement. Devils and witches need you to make an agreement with them. They need you to be in agreement. They need a covenant to be made. And usually the doorway to that covenant being made is through flattery. Also sex, flattery and sex, as we saw in the wilderness of Moab, as our ancestors entered into covenant agreement with these demon mighty ones, as they entered into witchcraft, into sorcery with these people. It was through the flattery of lips and sex. Witches use sex to their uttermost advantage. They use it. Many have lain with witches unknowingly. Many have listened to witches unknowingly, and warlocks and sorcerers unknowingly. But it begins with giving ear to them, with giving ear to flattering lips. That is the doorway, as we see with Kua. Hashatan flattered her. She gave ear to him, and she fell and caused her husband to fall. Beware of excessive flattering lips, because there is usually an ulterior motive to the flattery. But if her husband forbids her on the day that she hears it, then he has nullified her vow, which she vowed, and the rash utterance of her lips by which she bound herself, and YAHUAH pardons her. But any vow of a widow or a divorced woman by which she has bound herself stands against her. They need you to agree with them. They need a vow to be made, Zion. And usually the doorway to this vow being made, again, is through flattering lips, through you giving ear to them. You don't know these people on the internet. You don't really know these people on Facebook. You don't really know these people on YouTube or Twitter. You don't know them. Be careful of who you agree with. You don't know them. You don't know them. Be careful of who you agree with or who you make an agreement with. You're making agreement with devils and witches and sorcerers and not even knowing it. Be careful of who you give ear to. Be careful of flattering lips. Be careful of who you make an agreement with. And if she vowed in her husband's house or bound herself by an agreement with an oath, and her husband heard it and has kept silent towards her and did not forbid it, then all her vows shall stand, and every agreement by which she bound herself stands. The same rules applies to devils and witches. But if her husband clearly nullified them on the day he heard them, then whatever came from her lips concerning her vows or concerning the agreement binding her, it does not stand. Her husband has nullified them, and Yahuwah pardons her. Every vow and every binding oath to afflict her being, let her husband confirm it, or let her husband nullify it. But if her husband is altogether silent at her from day to day, then he confirms all the vows or all the agreements that bind her. He confirms them because he kept silent towards her on the day that he heard. But if he nullifies them after he has heard, then he shall bear her crookedness. These are the laws which Yahuwah commanded Moshe between a man and his wife, and between a father and his daughter in her youth in her father's house. The same applies, Zion, to devils. To devils. The oaths you make, the vows you make to them, they are binding. I'm not saying that they can't be broken. They can be broken. They can be broken, but you're going to have to go through something before these vows are broken, because you have agreed with them. You have voluntarily agreed with these devils and with these witches. So the warning to you today is to beware of flattering lips and don't even give ear to them. Again, social media is one of the biggest deceptions devised by the adversary. You don't know these people. You don't know them. People, you know, they look the part. They wear all the right garments. They speak all the correct words. But many of them are witches. And you're going around calling them brother and sister and ak and ako just because they say the right things and that they look the part. You don't know these people. You don't know their fruit. You don't know anything about them. Then they inbox you with flattering words, and then you give ear to them. You don't know these people. Devils need you to make an agreement with them. They need a vow. They need a covenant. And the quickest way to that vow and that covenant is through flattering lips, through you giving way to the ear. You giving your ear to them. They need for you to make an agreement with them. We read in the writings of Clementine homilies, Clem Home, and I don't usually read a lot of stuff like this. The general rule for me is I chew the meat and spit out the bones with the things that I read. And if that which I am reading has witnesses, then I chew the meat. I chew the meat. And so as we read here in the writings of Clementine homilies, supposedly, and I say supposedly because I can't confirm it, that he was a protege of Kapha, of Peter. He was a protege of Kapha, of Peter. But reading in his writings in the 8th chapter, reading verses 18 and 19, it reads, "Since the souls of the deceased giants were greater than human souls, inasmuch as they also excelled their bodies, they being a new race," and this is the Nephilim, "were called by a new name, i.e. demons." Demons. If you didn't know, demons are the disembodied spirits of the giants. The demons are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. A certain messenger was sent to them by Yahuwah, and again, this has witnesses, and so this is why I'm even reading it in the first place. It's because this indeed has witnesses. A certain messenger was sent to them by Yahuwah, declaring to them his will and saying, these things seem good to the all-seeing Elohim, that you master it over no man, that you trouble no one, hear me, unless anyone of his own accord subject himself to you. There must be an agreement. There must be a vow. Worshiping you and sacrificing and pouring libations and partaking of your table, or accomplishing anything else that they ought not, any other sin, because sin usually gives them access to us, because sin is contrary to the will of Yah. So sin gives them access to you. Sin gives them access to us. By sinning, we are in agreement with them. By sinning, we are in agreement with their rebellion. Or shedding blood, or tasting dead flesh, or filling themselves with that which is torn of beasts, or that which is cut, or that which is strangled, or anything else, hear me, that is unclean. Anything else that is unclean, whether eating or partaking in terms of your behavior. Those who betake themselves to my law, hear me, Torah, commandments, you not only shall not touch, but if any of those who worship me go astray, either committing adultery, or practicing magic, or living impurely, or doing any other of the things which are not well pleasing to me, then they will have to suffer something at your hands. There must be an agreement, Zion. There must be an agreement made. And what I need you to understand, Zion, is that the adversary has sent agents of destruction all throughout the house of Yasha'al. There are agents of destruction, and some of them, they sound well. They say the right words. They wear the right, they wear the clothing. They've changed their names. They're wearing zitzits. They're, speaking the Hebrew language. They have head wraps on. But Zion, they are agents of destruction. They are witches. There are witches and sorcerers amongst us. There are devils amongst us. They are assassins of the wicked one. And you need to be careful, especially on social media, who you give ear to. You need to beware of flattering lips. Again, they use all the right words. Some of them have changed their names. They wear abri garments and they look the part. But their houses, Zion, have not been plundered. Their houses have not been plundered. There is still a strong man. There's still a strong man in their houses. We learned this in the words of the Hamashiach when he declares that a reign divided cannot stand. That why would Satan cast out Satan? He talks about how when a strong man owns a house, that a stronger man than him has to come in and plunder that house. He's talking about demonic possession, and he is the stronger man coming into that house and plundering that house because he is a stronger man than the strong man that is in that house. But what I'm here to tell you is that some of these houses that are in the nation, that are in the house of Yasharal, have not been plundered. There is still strong men in these houses. They are still under demonic authority. And many of them know it. Many of them know it because many of them are witches and many of them are sorcerers. I've encountered them. Zion. They are there. You need to beware of flattering lips. And they entered here. I'm not speaking something to you that I have not experienced. They spoke flattering words to me, and that's how they entered. I let my guards down. And my wife and I were in the battle of our lives for 30 plus days because I voluntarily gave ear because I voluntarily gave ear. Many of you know I don't have a problem with being transparent if it's going to help someone else. If it's going to help someone else, I don't mind being transparent. I don't mind laying myself bare because I'm not a perfect man. I am a dirt, imperfect vessel. Anything I am, anything that I aspire to be is because of Yahuwah. Anything that I know is because Yahuwah has taught me. I don't know anything. I am nothing. He is everything. He is my portion. He is my strength. I'm just a dirt, fallible vessel. That's all I am. And so I don't mind laying myself bare if it's going to help someone. Nevertheless, beware of them. They are in the house of YAHUAH'S, and they are sent to destroy. They are sent to destroy. Again, there are witches in YAHUAH'S. I have encountered them. There are witches in YAHUAH'S, and they seek our agreement. They need an agreement to be made in order to give them authority over us. And again, that begins with flattering lips and with us giving ear to them. Be careful, Zion, who you give ear to. Beware of flattering lips. Stop making agreements with devils. You don't know these people on Facebook. You don't know these people. You don't know them. You don't know these people on YouTube. You don't know these people on Twitter or Snapchat or whatever. You don't know them. You haven't observed their fruits. You don't know these people. Be careful. Be careful who you give ear to. Be careful even whom you call Ak or Akuf. If you call them Ak or Akuf, then you're in agreement with them. You're saying that they're your brothers, that irrespective of their behavior, you have called them your brother or your sister, and that means that you are in agreement with them. Be careful who you break bread with, because breaking bread is a covenant agreement. It's a sign of a covenant being made. That means that you are in agreement with the person of whom you're breaking bread with. Be careful who you shake hands with. You don't want to touch everybody anyway. You need to be leery of who you touch. But be careful of who you shake hands with. Be careful of making agreements with devils. Be careful of making agreements with witches. Not everyone is our Ak and Akov. Only those who do the will of Yahuwah. We are calling people Ak and Akov, Zion, who are agents of the wicked one. And I say we because I have been guilty of doing it. I have been guilty of doing it. But we are calling people Ak and Akov who are agents of the wicked one. Hence, we are making agreement with them. We are making agreement with them. I'm going to shut this down, but I'm going to read a couple of scriptures and I'm going to shut this down. When we read in Timothy's bait, 2 Timothy, the 3rd chapter, verse 1 through 5, it reads here, "But know this, in the last days hard times shall come, for men shall be lovers of themselves, lovers of silver, boasters, proud, blasphemous, disobedient to parents, thankless, wrongdoers, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, fierce, haters of good, betrayers, reckless, puffed up, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of Elohim, having a form of reverence, but denying its power." Having a form of reverence, but denying its power, denying the Ruach HaKodesh, denying the Ruach HaKodesh. Hence, their houses have not been plundered. Their houses have not been plundered. The Spirit of the Messiah is not in them. The Ruach HaKodesh is not in them. Their houses have not been plundered. There are devils still in them. There are devils still in them. And many of them are practicing open witchcraft. And turn away from these. And Timothy's Aleph, or 1 Timothy, the 4th chapter, verse 1 through 5. We read, but the Spirit distinctly says, in the latter times some shall fall away from the belief, paying attention, listening to seducing spirits and teachings of demons, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having been branded on their own conscience, forbidding to marry, saying to abstain from foods which Elohim are created to be received with thanksgiving by those who believe and know the truth. And I don't have time to address that, but that doesn't mean you can eat anything you want. It doesn't mean that. Because every creature of Elohim is good, and none is to be rejected if it is received with thanksgiving, for it is set apart by the word of Elohim. It is set apart by the word of Elohim, and we understand and learn what is set apart by the word of Elohim and declared food and declared clean to eat in Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14. So he's not saying that you can eat whatever you want to eat. He says, for it is set apart by the word of Elohim. And we learn what is set apart by the word of Elohim in Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14. Nevertheless, this video isn't about that. For it is set apart by the word of Elohim and prayer. And prayer. Beware, Zion, of flattering lips. Beware of who you give ear to. Beware of witches and devils that are lurking, that are looking for you to make agreement with them, that are looking for you to make a covenant with them so that they have a right over you, so that they have a legal right to afflict you. Many of you have made agreement with witches and devils, and you don't understand what's going on in your life. You don't understand what's going on in your life because you have given over to flattering lips and allowed these devils to speak to you. Repent. Go down to the threshing floor. Beg for deliverance. Beg for the blood to be applied to every bondage in your life. Repent. That's the answer. Repentance. That's the answer. And quit making agreements with devils. I need you to understand, as read in Romans, the 9th chapter, the 6th and the 7th verse. However, it is not as though the word of Elohim has failed. For they are not all Yasharal who are of Yasharal. Neither are they all children, because they are the seed of Abraham. But in Ishak your seed shall be called. But in Ishak your seed shall be called. In Ishak is the free woman. And Ishak is the renewed Yerushalayim. In Ishak are those who are not born of the flesh, hallelujah, but who are born of the Ruach, who are not born from earth, but who are born from above. But who are born from above, because truly, truly I say to you, unless one is born from above, he will by no means enter into the reign of Shamayim. And so the children of Ishak, of the free woman, of those born of the Spirit, are the children of promise, and not those of the slave woman, of those born of the flesh. And so not all who say they are Yasharal are Yasharal. Some of them, the houses have not been plundered. There's still devils in them. And the Ruach HaKodesh has not come to make his abode in them. They have not been born from above. They are still seed of the slave woman. They are not seed of the free woman. And hence they are agents of destruction. They are agents of wickedness. And many of them are witches and sorcerers who seek agreement with you. Who seek agreement with you. One of the quickest ways to uncover these people, especially on Facebook, they have this thing within Messenger where you can place phone calls within Messenger. And one of the quickest ways to uncover the deception is when someone friends you, and then within the next 5 minutes, they're trying to call you. You don't know this person. Why are you trying to call me? We haven't even had a conversation yet, but you're trying to call me. Why? Because you want my ear. You want my ear. Beware of flattering lips, Zion. Beware of the hiss. Beware of divination and incantation and sorcery. Beware of the Nachash. Beware. Beware, beware, Zion, of who you give ear to. Yahuwah barak you and guard you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and show favor to you. Yahuwah lift up his face upon you and give you shalom. Thus you shall put my name on the children of Yasha'al, and I myself shall barak them. Amen.